So the last time I saw you, I was in Cannes. You were in Cannes, and
Yeah.
it was for the opening of Restless. Now, had you been to Cannes before that?
No, that was my first time in
That's what I
Cannes.
thought.
Yeah.
Well, what was that like?
It was great. It was kind of a whirlwind week, and it's sort of the Hollywood that I would expect to be in LA, but actually, yeah, it's sort of like Hollywood like migrates to south of France, and yeah, it was
Actually, the
amazing.
glamour quotient is about as big as it could possibly be.
I know, yeah.
With
It's
the
like
red
the hype.
carpet and
Yeah.
those steps on the
Yeah,
palais and
definitely.
everything.
But it was really fun, and I'd always like known of Cannes for a number of years, and yeah, so it was great.
Well, this has been a whirlwind year for you, and I'm going to confess to you that my favorite of all the wonderful movies you've been working on is Jane Eyre.
Oh, cool.
And
Awesome.
did you grow up with that book as a kid?
I didn't actually. I picked up the book a few months before I even heard that there was a project in development. I'd just finished filming Alice in Wonderland, and I went home to Australia, and it was the first time I didn't have to go back to school after, I'd finished a film in America, so I was kind of at a loss of what to do, and so I made this book list, and Jane Eyre was on it, and so I started reading it and fell in love with it so quickly. And I hadn't even finished it, but I was like calling my agents, asking them if there was anything in development, and there wasn't at the time, but then it was literally like 2 months later that they sent me the script, and then I met Carrie, and it went from there. So
How old is she supposed to be?
she's 18. Yeah.
And she's a great character.
She
She's one of
is.
the wonderful, strong heroines, you
Yeah.
know, one of those, someone who's surprising.
Yeah, that was one of the things that struck me about it when I read it first, because I'd always thought of her as an adult. In my mind, she was an adult, and then I read it and realized she was 18, and it kind of put things in a different perspective for me. Like, she was really just a kid, like a really young woman, and had all these crazy expectations.
But she had been sort of trained, you know, to take care of herself
Yeah.
and be very grown up
Yeah.
for her age, and
Yeah.
yet she'd never had any kind of romantic involvement with
Yeah.
anyone. So it's that first big
Yeah, definitely.
love.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and she sort of has this really incredible sense of self and a real strong sense of who she is, and I always thought that was so cool, because usually we get that from our family or people we know, and people reinforce why we are the way we are, and reinforce our opinions and all that, but she sort of is like this self-made hero, so I thought that was really cool.
And of course, Mr. Rochester
Yes.
is Michael Fassbender,
Yes.
and I interviewed him with this very camera
cool.
back when, after Fish Tank, and I had him pegged from an early point. But just working with him as an actor, talk a little bit about what he
Yeah,
brings.
He's brilliant. He is kind of the best combination of everything. He's so well prepared. He's done all his research. He knows everything he has to do down pat before he gets to set. And then at the same time, he's a huge amount of fun. He has this great energy, and then can sort of channel like all of this intensity into the scenes and the characters. And so I had so much fun working with him.
Cary
he's brilliant.
Fukunaga is sort of, on the surface of things, an odd choice
Yeah.
for the movie, and yet he brings, I think, you tell me. I mean, he's got a
Yeah.
lot of naturalism that he brings to it for a
Yeah.
period piece.
He was a very unusual choice. It wasn't, if it's not what you'd think would be an obvious choice to direct Jane Eyre. But I think that was part of what was so great about him doing the movie, because he sort of comes from outside of that culture and sort of brought a fresh perspective and fresh ideas, and didn't really bring any baggage, and didn't really feel the sort of pressure that maybe someone who's closer to the subject might feel. So he kind of came with a lot of freedom, and kind of really liberated the material, and did it his own way, and allowed us to do it our own way, and that was a really freeing experience.
Well, when you say that, does that mean he was open to a lot of suggestions, or there was a lot of improvisation, or what do you mean by that?
Not so much improvisation, but it was very collaborative. The process was very collaborative. And we were able to. It was a very, I don't know, like an intimate team. Everybody really kind of knew each other quite well, and then and very collaborative. And he's worked with his DP Adriana Goldman before, and then we had about 2 weeks of rehearsals where we didn't necessarily go through the scenes and block them out and do them the way we were going to do them, but we spent a lot of time talking about it and figuring out what we needed to do to make it come alive and feel comfortable with the way that they speak, because it's so different to how we speak now.
And now you're coming from Australia, and although I would say that your accent is not the strongest, most powerful one I've ever heard, it's pretty. Have you worked on making? Is this how you would have spoken a few years ago?
Probably not. My accent is kind of now like a bastardized accent, and it's a combination of, I guess, American, English, Australian, but it's sort of what's left. It's not something I put on. It's just.
In the old Hollywood days, they would knock accents out of people,
yeah,
you know.
That's crazy.
Whereas today, it's more like you have to be able to put on a lot of different hats as it calls for it.
Yeah.
And so Fassbender has like an Irish accent.
Yeah, he does.
So you two had to come meet in the middle
Yeah,
somewhere
Find the middle
with the
ground.
proper English.
Yeah.
Was that the first time you'd done real Brit, or did you do a little bit of it in Alice?
Yeah. But this was I was really keen for there to be like a tiny hint of a Yorkshire accent, because that's and just a hint, something that would sort of echo back to not such a proper upbringing. The people who were raising her wouldn't have spoke perfect RP pronunciation. It would have been much more like a Northern England kind of twang.
A brogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But you don't want to go too broad with it, because then no one will understand you.
So it was just like there's certain words. So certain words where you can kind of hear it. But I'm not sure if Americans pick up on it as much, because much more like the British people will be like. Rawr.
Well, I'm wondering how you guys are going to do overseas. I mean, with like BAFTAs. You know, because I'm rooting for Jane Eyre. As people who listen to my Oscar talk with Chris Tapley, I'm and the Academy is a very male organization.
Right, yeah.
You know, although the actors branch is more even.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But it just it seems to play for women more powerfully.
Yeah.
It always did.
Yeah.